This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. On Friday evening, it became all but a foregone conclusion that Donald Trump will be acquitted of his villainy and infidelity to his oath of office. Wednesday, February 5th, 2020, will be recorded in future history books as another in a series of nails that has been hammered into the metaphorical coffin of the once great party of Abraham Lincoln. Wednesday will be the vote in the Senate on whether or not to honor the United States Constitution and remove Donald Trump from office. And Wednesday will be the day that Republicans betray the nation by covering for a president who solicited election interference from a desperate foreign nation at war with our enemy. Here is what Wednesday and the days that follow will look like. These moral and political cowards in the Senate will acquit Donald Trump in the face of overwhelming evidence of his guilt. Donald Trump will immediately proclaim his total and complete exoneration. He will lie to his eager-to-be-duped base and say that he was found not guilty in a fair trial by a deliberative Democratic political body. This will be a lie. There was no fair trial. There can be no fair trial without a single witness having been called. There can be no fair trial when evidence is not presented to or examined by the jury. And there could be no fair trial when the court colludes with the accused to acquit. And that is precisely what we witnessed over the course of the past few days. In what has become an all too familiar pattern with Trump's hundreds of schemes and scandals. First, there was a complete denial. There was nothing wrong done. It was a perfect call, he said. Then we heard that, he said what he said, but there was no quid pro quo. Next came an admission that there was, in fact, a quid pro quo, but that it involved legitimate foreign policy objectives in the interest of the United States of America. And then finally, his lawyers caved in their defense of Donald Trump on the floor of the United States Senate and admitted that the quid pro quo wasn't about diplomacy or corruption, but an attempt to get reelected. But that it's not impeachable because Donald Trump getting himself reelected is in the national interest. And in fact, many Republicans in the Senate have decided that yes, what Donald Trump did was wrong and the charges laid out by the House managers are accurate. But they are choosing Trump and party over loyalty to country and principles. Sickening, weak-kneed coward Tennessee Senator Lamar Alexander said in a statement that I worked with other senators to make sure that we have the right to ask for more documents and witnesses, but there is no need for more evidence to prove something that has already been proven. There is no need for more evidence to prove that the president asked Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter. He said this on television on October 3rd, 2019, and during his July 25th, 2019 telephone call with the president of Ukraine. There is no need for more evidence to conclude that the president withheld United States aid, at least in part, to pressure Ukraine to investigate the Bidens. The House managers have proved this. It was inappropriate for the president to ask a foreign leader to investigate his political opponent and to withhold United States aid to encourage that investigation. When elected officials inappropriately interfere with such investigations, it undermines the principle of equal justice under the law. But the Constitution does not give the Senate the power to remove the president from office and ban him from this year's ballot simply for actions that are inappropriate. The question then is not whether the president did it, but whether the United States Senate or the American people should decide what to do about what he did. I believe that the Constitution provides that the people should make that decision in the presidential election that begins in Iowa on Monday. Lamar Alexander is as shameful and dishonorable as they come. On his way out the door, because he's not running for re-election, he's admitting that Trump is a vile crook who criminally disrespects our fundamental principles of democratic norms. But that as a constitutionally empowered member of the United States Senate, he has decided to ignore this treachery and leave Trump in office to continue his attempts to illegally undermine our free and fair elections. And he's not the only one who's gone on the record to admit to Trump's guilt and announce his obsequious support for a full acquittal. Marco Rubio, another moral deserter, also issued a sickening statement, which he said in part that voting to find the president guilty would not just be a condemnation of his action. If I vote guilty, I will be voting to remove a president from office for the first time in the 243-year history of our republic. Thanks, Captain Obvious. 6 weeks ago, I announced that for me, the question would not just be whether the president's actions were wrong, but ultimately whether what he did was removable. Just because actions meet a standard of impeachment does not mean it is in the best interest of the country to remove a president from office. Nevertheless, new witnesses that would testify to the truth of the allegations are not needed for my threshold analysis, which already assumed that all the allegations made were true. Ugh. Gross, Rubio. And then, speaking of gross, we got Ted Cruz, who went on with Donald Trump's shadow chief of staff, Sean Hannity, to bow and scrape and worship at the feet of his overlord and savior, Donald Trump. Watch him just completely deny that anything wrong was done at all.
Good to see you. I applaud your colleagues. I applaud you the entire time. I'm a little bewildered why we have to wait till Wednesday, to be honest. But I guess we now know what will happen by then.
Well, Sean, that's exactly right. I think the last 24 hours were pivotal. For all intents and purposes, this impeachment process is over. The vote we had today, not to extend the trial, not to have yet more additional witnesses. We already had 18 witnesses testify in the House. We've seen thousands of pages of documents that the House managers and the White House defense lawyers have focused on. And throughout all of it, the House managers never proved their case. And so their strategy, as you know, was just a Hail Mary. If they haven't proven their case, their only hope was bring additional witnesses, drag it out weeks or months, and go on a fishing expedition. Hope that somebody said something that would give them some basis for impeachment because they haven't proven it. And this was a vote. 4 Republicans were right on the edge. And today, holding 51 in the majority to say we're done, we've got enough, this is over. That means we're headed straight to Wednesday afternoon, a vote on final judgment, and the president is going to be acquitted of these charges, as he should be.
Imagine a man so gutless, so craven, so embarrassingly servile that he would bend the knee to a man who claimed on national television that his father aided in the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. That's Ted Cruz. Imagine a man so emasculated that he would exhibit such adoring devotion to a man who mocked and cruelly ridiculed the physical appearance of his wife. That's Ted Cruz. Pathetic. Well, as pathetic as he has lots of company in the United States Senate. His traitorous Republican colleagues are poised to stand in solidarity as a political shield for Donald Trump, endorsing his anti-democratic criminality and corruption. And they're going to pay for it. Because there is one thing that Lamar Alexander said that is quite relevant. Remember, he said, I believe that the Constitution provides that the people should make the decision in the presidential election that begins in Iowa on Monday. He's right. Today are the Iowa caucuses. Today begins the decision-making process where we choose who is best suited to, 1, defeat Donald Trump, and 2, lead our nation back onto a track of regard for the rule of law, equal justice and general adherence to our founding documents and principles. And listen, it is more important now than it has ever been that you take part in that process. Making Donald Trump a civilian again makes him investigable, indictable, convictable, and jailable. As a former president, he will no longer have the protection of his own Department of Justice and executive branch network of cover-up conspirators. So get out there and vote blue no matter who. There is too much at stake to risk another 4 years of this abject lawlessness.